Why don't we all just sample our voices, our instruments, and our drums, and just put them in a fucking computer and type in the notes and fucking timing and everything that we want to play and just let it do the work for us? What the fuck? I never thought Bob Dylan was a great singer. Matter of fact, I thought he was one of the worst singers I've ever heard in my fucking life. And multi-millions later, you know, he gets his point across, and you feel his emotion, and how you going to get around that, you know? Maybe that's better than the greatest singer in the world, is to be able to get your message through to someone else through the actual way you sing it and feel it at that time. Guarantee he doesn't sit down all day and all night working his balls off over the coals trying to perfect some lyric. You know, that's why those old records were so fucking great back in the day. It's because there's no way that you could go back and Pro Tool it, slice it, dice it, do this and fix that and fix that. All the imperfections were left there, but really they weren't imperfections. That's the honest way the dude sounds. Unmanipulated, stripped down, and honestly from the fucking heart.
That was Dimebag roughly around 03-04. He basically predicted the rise of AI music 2 decades before it happened. In this video, Dimebag talks about how one of his favorite things in music are the quote-unquote mistakes. For instance, a singer's voice cracking or a guitar going out of tune. Dimebag argues that's the stuff which gives music its human element, and that digital editing is over-sanitizing everything.
Some of the greatest moments of guitar playing and singing is to hear somebody's fucking pipe screaming, trying to get to that fucking note, and you can hear the rage, and then, or overshooting a note. It's like just overexcited, man. That is fucking emotion. That is a live human being, you know. Fucking some of the other greatest moments I can immediately think of off the top of my head. Tony Iommi would double his guitars and they'd go out of tune. One would be like here and one would be up here. And then when they would fucking dogfight each other, just, listen to the front of Iron Man. That's some of the heaviest sounding shit you'll ever hear. And that's more perfect proof that the live feel, the honesty blows away computer technology and what perfect truly is, if there is such a thing. What is perfect, you know? That's like saying, man, well, dude, you can play with feel and everything if you're a drummer, but you've got to stay in time. You know, you got to be solid. Well, all I can say is some of my favorite fucking records, the tempo shifts 3 or 4 times. When it takes off, you feel the fucking gas, the power behind it, and it goes. You feel the motherfucker's emotion, and it's moving. You can't stop it. It's like a fucking race car when it hits the gas. How can that be wrong? So that cancels that theory that, you know, to be a great drummer, you got to stay in time. That's horseshit. That's like to say to be a great singer or a great guitar player, you got to play in tune. You got to be in pitch. What may sound like a squeaky, out of tune, fucking irritating violin to someone sounds like the most serene, beautiful tone of a fucking saxophone, beautifully in tune in the moonlight. So what's a little imperfection, this little squeal or this little quirk? That's the coolest thing.
The crazy thing is, AI-generated music has gotten so advanced now that AI is able to perfectly create songs with those quote-unquote mistakes, that natural touch. It's going to be really interesting to see how that relationship between musicians and AI will develop going forward. In any case, going back to Dimebag specifically, throughout this video, I'm going to be sharing with you multiple clips of Dimebag where he talks about his philosophy on various things, his thoughts on Lemmy from Motorhead, Kiss and Ace Frehley, a crazy Zakk Wylde story, stuff about Pantera, and much, much more. In this first clip, Dime and Vinny talk about Pantera's glam metal era from the 80s. Pantera became famous in 1990 with Cowboys, but that wasn't actually their first record. The band started back in 1981 and released 4 albums before Cowboys. The first was Metal Magic in 1983, followed by Projects in the Jungle in 1984, I Am the Night in 85, and Power Metal in 1988. All these albums were independently released, and the first 3 featured Terry Glaze on vocals, not Phil Anselmo. In this clip, Dime and Vinny talk about why they never re-released any of those glam albums once Pantera got famous.
Well, I'll tell you what the bottom line behind that is.
It could have been demo tapes, you know, and they got lost in the wash and shit, you know.
The bottom line is we could all be immediately richer, once again, if we wanted to, bounce on the success of these other albums that we've made and try to take those old records and put them out and, you know, commercialize them and make people think that they're the same kind of music that we are today, you know. So it's just something that we feel like those albums were good. They're part of our history, but they're also a collector's item, man.
Yeah, growing process.
You know, it'd just be kind of cheesy for us.
Did they do very well when they came out for the first few albums?
You know, they did 10, 20,000 copies a piece, you know, which is pretty amazing for an independent release with no record company, you know.
Man, that's cool that you're not prepared to do that. Oh, you know Warner's want it, right?
Oh, they want it bad. Yeah, they've offered us heaps and heaps.
But you're flicking, you're flicking the bird.
Mate. Hey, he's learning.
It's great.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't represent what Pantera is in the '90s. You know, it's like Dime said, demo tapes that actually made it to record.
Right.
Yeah.
As mentioned, 3 of Pantera's 4 glam metal albums feature Terry Glaze on vocals. Terry wasn't the band's original singer, though. He actually started out as a guitarist. From 1981 to 83, Pantera had both Dimebag and Terry on guitar, before switching over to Dimebag being the only guitarist. Pantera's original lineup from 1981 to 82 featured Dimebag and Terry on guitar, Vinny on drums, this guy, Tommy Bradford, on bass, and this guy, Donnie Hart, on lead vocals. After Donnie's departure, Terry became the lead vocalist from 1982 until 86. After Terry's departure, Pantera briefly had 4 other singers in just a few months, before finally hiring Phil Anselmo in 86. From that point forward, Pantera's classic lineup of Dimebag, Vinny, Rex, and Phil remained together for about 17 years until their breakup in 03. One of the bands which influenced Pantera's evolution from glam into heavier metal was Motorhead. The following is Dimebag talking about Motorhead and in particular Lemmy. He shares a funny story of how Lemmy once sold him a bass guitar.
Everything louder than everything, motherfucker. Motorhead. Fucking the longest, hardest driving fucking band in rock and roll of all time. Go Lemmy.
And Dime, you even have one of Lemmy's basses, don't you?
Yeah. Badass Gibson Thunderbird. And he's like, Dime, hey, check it out. If you like it, I'll make you a deal. And it had the Motorhead case, you know, with the big fucking stencil with the fucking logo on it, you know. I was like, dude, just tell me what it costs. I'm taking this motherfucker. $1,200. That's all I'll charge you, man. I was like, done, dude. I went to the ATM machine and came back, dude. He was so fucking cool. I met him at the Rainbow, and I just walked up to give him a shot, you know, just to see how he'd react to it. And he just looks at me and he grabs a shot, toasts me, and threw it back before he even said hi or anything. And I go, that's my kind of guy. And he goes, oh, what's going on, man? You know, I introduced myself and shit. Well, fuck, let me buy you one, mate. We stood at the fucking bar and pounded all night. Then we went back to his house. Had this huge gallon of Jack Daniels. We sat there and they just did this gig. Metallica just did a Motorhead cover set for Lemmy's birthday. I don't remember what, like his 50th birthday? So was it his 100th birthday? No. Go Lemmy! But, yeah, man, you know, he sat there and played us the whole fucking videotape that. We drank Jack all night, and I got a Lemmy bass out of the deal. It was fucking amazing!
That was from an interview Dimebag did with Concrete Marketing right around 03-04. The Rainbow is a famous restaurant in Los Angeles. Later in that same interview, Dimebag shares a crazy story about Zakk Wylde, a story in which Dimebag almost got sent to jail. Dime and Zakk were best friends. Following Dimebag's death, there were years and years of rumors that in the event of any sort of Pantera reunion, Zakk Wylde would fill in as a lead guitarist. When he was still alive, however, Vinnie Paul actually addressed those rumors. He said that he felt it would be inappropriate, it would not be acceptable for Zakk to take over for Dimebag. Not because Vinnie had any sort of issue with Zakk, on the contrary. Vinnie and Zakk were close friends. But Vinnie felt that without Dimebag, there could never be a Pantera reunion. And thus, when Pantera reunited a few years after Vinnie himself passed away, there were some mixed feelings. I'd say most fans have been happy about the reunion. I mean, just look at the success they've had touring. But there are some people who still feel like it should not have happened. That this new version of Pantera, Phil and Rex plus Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante, is not really a reunion. Technically, it's true. Without the 4 guys, you can't really have a full reunion, but I think it's cool Pantera got back out there. In any case, here Dimebag talks about how he got into Kiss, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and some of his other influences at a young age.
Kiss, that was it for me, man. Just right out of the chute, you know, blood slinging everywhere, fire, bombs going off. Kiss, you know, fucking unbelievable. Man, I used to walk home from school every day. I'd pass by this house, and I smelt something funny in the air, and I always, you heard some kind of wild hum going on in there, and there was always these dudes, long-haired hippies going in and out of it, and I didn't know what was going on. It's like 4th grade or something like that. And then I got abducted into there one day, it was like 6th grade, I think. I always wanted to know what was going on in there, and I walked in, they had the huge Kiss posters, just, how it was back in the day. You covered every fucking wall with everything, I was blown the fuck away, and they had the stereo on 12, and I was like, what is this? It's fucking Kiss, dude. We grew up on everything from Skinner to Boston, you name it, whatever, from just good old classic rock radio, and whatever the mom had on the 8-track or whatever she's rocking. Then we found out there's this whole other side to it, the fucking explosive, aggressive, fucking ass kicking, fucking, whoa, let's do this side to it, And of course, we were kids, we fell in love with it.
The following is from 1996, where Dimebag spoke to Glenn TV in Australia about how much he loves Kiss.
What age you just started?
I was about 13 years old. I got a fake Les Paul, tried to be Ace Frehley, skipped school, dressed up like Kiss, It was pretty mainstream heavy metal for me,
Hey, look at that. He's got a Kiss tab. I didn't even know that.
You can make him smile. Oh, look at that.
Love that
And
shit.
it was signed by Ace Frehley himself, and he had that tattooed. So
Blew it up.
big
one
Kiss
of your big
fans.
influences.
Hey, they're coming back, aren't they?
Fucking huge.
Hey, we already saw them, man. Their tour was awesome in the States. All I can say is if they ever come over here, go see it.
Here, Dimebag talks about the importance of having a good relationship with the fans.
As we evolved into Pantera, Cowboys From Hell, and we grew, we never ever became above the fans, man, and we just kept that with us, and still to this day. I think if you ever get above the fans, man, you lose that connection, It's fucked up, man. So, not for us. Any of the great classic metal bands, no matter where you start, I had this kid today told us, not putting us in the great classic metal bands, but we just went to get something to eat earlier today, and we walked into these dudes go, dude, man, Far Beyond Driven's first record I ever got from y'all, man. Of course, I did the backtrack and went back. Anyway, my point is, no matter what record you start on, any great classic metal band, you're going to go all the way back and get every bit of it, It's all fucking good, man. I know we put on a hell of a fucking live show, and we got the best fans in the world. Every crowd we play to is a Pantera crowd, no matter where we're at. I particularly enjoyed Australia a lot just because the easygoing way that everybody is, and all the fucking beers we drank over here, the VBs and all that shit, man. It's just fucking, it was great, man, because it's been a long time. We had 3 records out before we ever even came over. And everybody knew what was going on. We knew what was going on, and it just ignited. It's badass.
Later in that interview, Dimebag shares his thoughts on Kurt Cobain's death. I'll be showing that clip in a few minutes. Here, Vinny and Dime talk about the first concerts they ever went to.
For me, it was 1978, Boston and Sammy Hagar, Tarrant County Convention Center. Blew me the fuck away, man. The very next concert we went to, which I think we went together, because your first concert was, your first one was Nazareth, yeah. And he told me it was fucking sick. And then the next one we went to together was Alice Cooper, probably at the peak of his career, and he had the big movie screen, and it had all this shit going on, and then he comes running real big on the screen, and it shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and then he jumps through the screen, and nobody knew what to expect. I mean, this was at the height of all of his theatrics, and I mean, it was one of the most incredible shows ever saw.
Here, Vinny talks about Pantera's early struggles and how the band kept getting rejected by the big record labels.
It was a pretty trying time for us at that time. We'd been playing nightclubs for 7 years, started off as a cover band, and then started writing our own material, and really became one of the only bands in Texas at the time that could play a full original set, that play nightclubs back then. You played 5-6 nights a week, you did cover tunes, and you played the circuit, and we put out our independent records, which helped lead us to being able to do our own set because the fans really were digging on it. We'd shopped the band with every major label on the face of the earth, been turned down 28 times by all of them, been to New York to showcase at the Cat Club back in the day, been to LA, did some showcases out there, and it just didn't seem like we could get an offer from any major label. And at that time, we felt like to really go where we wanted to go, we needed to be on a major. We had a couple of independent labels that were interested, but we just didn't feel like that was going to lead to anything,
At this point, they talk about the story of how they got signed to a big label called Atco Records. Today, Atco's parent company is Warner Music. During this story, one person Vinny mentions in particular is Mark Ross. Mark was an A&R person for ATCO. A&R stands for Artists and Repertoire, the people responsible for finding new artists to sign. This story took place in September of 1989 during Hurricane Hugo, a major hurricane which damaged much of Southeast America.
Like I said, plenty of A&R people that had seen us that just didn't get it, just didn't understand where we were coming from. And we got fortunate by misfortune. This guy named Mark Ross, he was going to North Carolina to see a band called Tangier that they just signed. And that Hurricane Hugo hit. And so he was stranded in Dallas on the layover, and he called back to New York to Derek Shulman, who was the president of ATCO at the time, and said, hey, I'm stuck here in Texas. Is there anybody you want me to go see tonight? Is there any bands here? And he goes, well, this band Pantera has been sending me, independent records for a couple of years now, and they're really pretty good. I just don't know anything about them live. Why don't you go check them out? So I get this phone call from this guy with this real deep New York accent. Hey, this is Mark Ross from ATCO Records. We'd met so many different A&R people, and they just all kind of had this flaky vibe to him, and he was a little different, and he's like, are you playing tonight? And I said, well, man, we're playing this little Mexican disco private party for this girl's birthday, He goes, that's fine. I said, really? And he goes, yeah, I'll be there. So gave him directions and all that. Immediately recognized him the minute I got there, and he pulled up, he's this big tall dude with his curly hair, and I was like, this ain't some dude that's just here to party. Well, this has got to be the cat from New York, And I went up and shook hands with him and met him, and he was really cool. And we went up on stage and we just threw down. We were just going for it. And there's probably 80 people there at the most. And all of a sudden the birthday cake started getting thrown. They were sliding around on the stage. It was a pretty outrageous deal. And about 4 songs after we started, he left, and we're all looking at each other. Oh, fuck it. Let's get drunk. The dude fucking left and all this, About 4 songs later, hey, there he is. He's back, man.
Turn it on
He came
again.
back. And we finished the set, and he came right up to me right after we finished, and he goes, man, I don't know a whole lot about heavy metal, but that was the most kick-ass live band I've ever seen in my life. I said, really? I said, well, how come you left? He goes, I went out to the car to call Derek to tell him we're signing you guys. And that's how it happened, man. And
who'd have thought, man, on the Mexican birthday party.
There it was. It happened, and we signed on October 29th, 1989. Pantera became a monster from then, We got our opportunity, and we took the ball and ran with it. Thank God for that hurricane. A lot of people ain't too happy about it, but it worked out for us, And, of course, Mark Ross and Derek Shulman for giving us the opportunity. Absolutely.
At this point, they talk about the band's legendary show in Moscow in September of 91, as well as their relationship with Metallica. Metallica, of course, headlined that show in Moscow.
Monsters of Rock in Moscow with AC/DC and Metallica, which was a fucking Black Crowes, one of the most unbelievable shows ever. It was a gift from Time Warner to the people in Russia. I guess they were trying to introduce them to Western music. It was at a big Russian airfield, and it was a free concert. They didn't know who we were from shit, and they treated us like Led Zeppelin. We got up on stage and played, but it was just outrageous. It's the first time we ever played with Metallica, and we've known those dudes since '83. We've been in contact with them for a long time. James and Lars actually came and stayed at me and Dom's house for a couple of days at one time. And this is, when they were on their way up, it was back to the Lightning, right when that came out. And then we played with them in, Mexico City at a outdoor motor speedway.
I thought it was never going to happen, but after a good night of drinking at Scores.
That's a good story, actually. Yeah, it was after Lars came to our show here in New York, and we decided to go to Scores. We hopped in the limo, and I'm like, dude, we got to play. And he goes, all right, we'll do it. We'll make it happen. We got a show coming up. We're doing in Mexico City. And he goes, but I never paid my warm-up bands more than $25,000. And I said, you're fucking crazy. I'm not going down to Mexico City playing. And we started this fucking thing back and forth.
Two business guys.
35. And he's like, not going to go for it. Not going to go for it. And I said, all right, we kept working. Anyways, I think I got us the highest paid opening slot for Metallica ever. And the show happened. It was a fucking great show.
Now, the following is a crazy story Dimebag shares about Zakk Wylde, a story in which Dimebag almost ended up doing serious jail time.
The main thing was to get Zakk on the fucking plane so he didn't miss his flight, And so here comes the limo guy, pulls up, and he comes in to take a fucking piss, left his car running out there, and I jump in it with Zakk. And I got this big metal Christmas tree in my fucking front yard. And I go, let's get a bull, pop it in gear, light them up, burn the tires off, and smash into this Christmas tree. Shit goes flying everywhere. And we're like, woo! Pull it back around. And I'm like, dude, let's get out and act like nothing happened. He goes, fuck that, let me get a pull, bro. And he gets behind the wheel. And we took off on the fucking Troop to Hell ride from hell for about 45 minutes. First thing, stop sign, flattens it, 4 mailboxes in a row. Fucking, here goes the fucking fence. We're lost, dude. We're out in the cow pasture and shit, where my house is and shit. And anyway, man, next thing we're on a fucking soccer field. We're everywhere, just taking dips and shit, flying all over the fucking place in this thing. I mean, it was dangerous, man. Very dangerous, man. 45 minutes of just non-stop. And so we get back to the house, we come pulling up, dude. All the fucking rearview mirrors are hanging off this fucking thing. It has no front bumper. The headlights are both smashed out. The fucking windshield smashed, scratches, everything. The whole undercarriage is dragging the fucking ground. And we come pulling up in it, and smoke's coming out of the hood. And I throw the door open before I could say a word. My limo guy's standing there, and he goes, "That's my boys. Ain't nothing Zakk and Dom can't pay for." And so anyway, that's the story. Has a really cool ending. So anyway, Zakk got stuck. He fucking missed his flight. Stays at my house for like 2 more days. And dude, he was nonstop fucking just going. And then we try to get him to the airport. We get him there and he goes to the fucking bar again. Stays in this room. He got in so much fucking trouble. He finally gets home and my old lady has to call the warden up and tell her, "Hey dude, cause we put the car in the shop just to see what it would take. And they said it's totaled. Luckily we had some friends at the Ford shop, Westway, thank you. And they said, "Look, I'll tell you what we'll do. Get us a Zakk guitar and a dime guitar. We'll sell this fucking thing on the auction. We'll take the money and we'll roll him into a 2003 car and we'll get him a brand new one for his old lady. They'll be happy." So we actually made all that happen. Anyway, so the cops call the house, and they like found the license plate.
Yeah, they found the bumper and the license plate
laying on the fucking soccer field and shit. And they're like, "We got calls all last night about some long-haired, blonde-haired dude in Dimebag driving through the neighborhood, raising hell, running down mailboxes, tearing up shit. We need the boys to come down here and talk to us and give us a statement." And I was like, "Dude,
we done got on their website and found out he's the guitar player for Ozzy Osbourne." They were like all excited. They thought they had their Michael Irvin. They were going to get one,
my old lady went down, talked to him, told him, "Sorry, look, they just got a little out of hand. Sorry, Zack's a big dude, and when he's out of control, you can't really, just watch out, let it go. You can't really straighten a dude like that out, And he goes, "Oh, we're going to let it slide since it's Christmas holidays, but we're going to have y'all come on down, first of next year and come on down. Chief wants to see Dimebag here anyway." So they start calling, dude. I go down there. This is after Christmas. I don't want to be incriminated. "Oh, yeah, we got criminal mischief charges on you, Mr. Zakk Wylde. We need you to come on down." And anyway, so I go down there. My lawyer is there before I am, and he comes out and he goes, "Dom, it's going to be a little different than I think you think it's going to be. Let's go on in and let's deal with this guy." And we walk in. The guy walks up and he goes, "Hey, how you doing, Mr. Dimebag? Nice to meet you. Finally get to meet you. You know what, man? It's really, really such a nice honor to have you living in our community, and it was so cool to me. I couldn't believe I got my checkbook in one pocket. I'm just like ready to just shell out whatever." And he's like, "Man, we like to take care of kids. We do a bunch of homeless kid stuff. We like to work with all this stuff. And every report I've ever got on you has been nothing but great, man. Said you spent good time with the kids, gave them right wisdom, and, signed their autograph. That's the kind of guy we need around here. Now, about all this other stuff, we're going to let it slide, but you can go fix on Mr. Chapman's fence down there on the left. And we took care of the stop signs and the mailboxes. And just try not to let it happen again." I was like, "You got to be kidding me, man."
Every minute, man. He called me up. I was worried. I was like, "Man, he's going to be in jail for a few years."
Freaking dude.
He called me up and he goes, "You're not going to believe what happened." I said, "No." And he told me that. And I said, "You got to be kidding." Wow. All right.
So, dude, not only did we not have to pay for the car, not only we didn't get fucking thrown in jail, all we had to do is shell a couple of guitars out, and dude, that is by the grace of God. We won't let it happen again.
Now, as mentioned earlier, in that Australia interview from 1996, Dimebag shared his thoughts on Kurt Cobain's death. Here's the clip.
What do you think of bands such as Pearl Jam and Nirvana that did the charts?
Still, hey man, whatever for whoever,
And how did you react to Cobain's suicide when you first heard it?
I didn't really believe it at first, and then after being around the world, 4 or 5 times everywhere and seeing so many people and watching how things change and stuff, I wasn't that surprised after all, Sucks though. Fucking sucks.
Of course, there's still a lot of controversy and different theories around Kurt's death. With regards to Dimebag's death, there is a much clearer picture of what happened. He was murdered on stage in front of hundreds of people, and the attack was even caught on camera. This is actual footage of the night Dimebag died. He was on stage with Damageplan in Columbus, Ohio on December 8th, 2004. This is him right here. A few minutes later, a schizophrenic person got on stage and shot Dimebag. This is the shooter, Nathan Gale. He was literally a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. He believed Pantera had tried to steal his identity. There are many rumors as to why he wanted to kill Dimebag and or the other guys from Pantera. His exact motive is still unknown. There were a total of 5 deaths that night, including the shooter. This is the police officer who shot the shooter, Officer James D. Nigmeyer. I'll be doing another video focusing on exactly what happened that night. As for this video, before I go back to audio of Dimebag, I want to share with you a few minutes of Phil Anselmo reflecting on Dimebag's death.
Not many of us ever blow a fucking person's head off after a mass murder. And this poor bastard is scarred as well. Very scarred. I spoke with the police officer that blew this motherfucker who killed Dimebag, blew him away. The guy who killed him. And I asked him the hard question. I said, tell me, did he purposely shoot just Dimebag? He said yes. And I kind of choked up. And I thought for sure I knew what was going to come out of his mouth when I said, why? Why did he shoot Dimebag? He said they went back to his apartment, this murdering motherfucker. And he had notebook after notebook, stacked notebooks with all about writing how he was going to kill Pantera for ripping off his songs. Kill Pantera, Pantera. Not once in any of the motherfucking things did it name any of us specifically. And if it did, it was all 4 of us. But it was rare. And so I said to this cop, I said, so then what you mean is, had it been me playing with Down that night, this motherfucker would have come after me. And he just said, absolutely. Matter of fact, he was crying and all he could do was nod his head. Yes, absolutely.
That's from an interview Phil did with the High Times in the early 2010s.
What if Dimebag was still alive? I think there would have been an end to any rift. Dimebag was too much of a brother to carry a hate around with him, or anger. Vinnie Paul, he watched his brother get murdered. But he has pinned the guilt on the wrong guy. And I tell you what, my door is open. You hear me? I told you before, I come with love. That means that's a fucking open door, man. I doubt that Vinnie Paul will unlock his door. And I love the guy. I love the guy. I would love to have the fucking opportunity to apologize the way I apologize to my family, to my best friends, and everybody for fucking losing my mind for a period of my life that I fucking regret to this second. I'd love to have that opportunity. Therapy don't come out of a whiskey bottle, Jack.
Here, Phil discusses how he still lives with the pain of Dimebag's death on a daily basis.
That's something you live with every day. That's something I live with every day. From a peripheral, but fucking absolute heart rendering, and I live with this shit. Every other moment of my fucking life, I think about it.
This next clip is from 2004, just a few days after Dimebag's death. Here, Phil shares his raw emotions on the subject.
People want my reaction to what happened. This is not about me. This is about Dimebag Darrell. Purely Darrell. It's not about me or some motherfucking psycho that happened to destroy the most beautiful person. One of my best friends in the world. It was the heavy metal media that destroyed Pantera. Pantera's music changed people's lives, man. We weren't just some band.
Famously, Phil was not allowed to attend Dimebag's funeral. Following Pantera's bad breakup, of course, there was a lot of bad blood between Phil and Dimebag/Vinnie. After Dimebag's death, Phil tried to mend the fence, but Vinnie wanted nothing to do with him. Phil addresses being rejected from the funeral in this video.
I wish I could have gone to his funeral. but I have to respect his family's wishes, and they do not want me there. I believe I belong there, but I understand completely. I'm so sorry to his band members. I'm so sorry to the whole fucking world that loved Dimebag Darrell. Because let me tell you something, there was not one motherfucker like him. I'm so sorry to his family. And everyone else who was just senselessly killed in Columbus, Ohio. That's a town I love. That's a town I've played up 100 times. I love that town. That's where Dimebag Darrell got killed. This is very unique for me. And that's all I know. Just bless his family. Bless his friends. I love him. Like a brother loves a brother. Vinnie Paul, my other brother. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I would have taken a bullet for you, brother. Mark my words. Because I love you. And I love all of you. What is this world coming to? This has changed the world. I hope you all realize that now. This has changed the entire world. And this is the last you'll be seeing of me for a long time. I hope you're happy. Heavy metal music magazines. Media. I hope you're happy.
What Phil's referring to there is how the tension between him and Dimebag/Vinny was exasperated by the media. The negative press added another layer to things. Now, switching gears to something less dark but still pretty intense. Going back to that New Zealand interview in 1996, Dimebag and Vinny share a crazy story they have from South America. According to Vinny, the Venezuelan government forced Pantera to play a show at a rundown baseball stadium filled with snakes and bats in front of 8,000 people with basically no lights while it was raining. And if Pantera refused, they would be framed as drug smugglers. This concert took place on December 10th of 1993.
We did a tour of South America, our first tour, and one of the stops was Caracas, Venezuela. We had done Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Sao Paulo, all that, and this was the last show before we flew back to the States. And we were supposed to play the nice indoor arena that they have there. Well, nice. The nice indoor arena. And the day of the show that we were supposed to play there, the El Presidente decided that he wanted to have his favorite violin player play a concert that night. So we were immediately booted out of the nice concert hall, which was sold out, and put into this baseball stadium that hasn't been used in over 20 years. Well, the weeds were this tall, land crabs everywhere, and snakes all over the place. And there was 8,000 kids that came to this show. When it got dark, there were no lights because there was no electricity out there except us. It started raining. We're on a metal stage, and there's bats flying around us. And it's the most freaked out thing that's ever happened. We weren't going to play the show, you know. We were like, man, we just need to get the hell out of here. Yeah, you know, forget cut this. Your losses. Well, we told the promoter that we were just going to bail, and he's like, well, dude, I'm sorry, but they're just going to throw a pound of cocaine in your stuff right there at customs, and you're not going to get out of the country. Si, senor. And we said, okay. You'd
have to be in the toilet with a straw for an awfully long time.
Yeah, so we decided to do the show, and it went off great, but there was like 10 kids that got bit by snakes that night, had to go to the hospital. It was heavy, man. He got food poisoning. It was bad news. We had to get the hell out of there.
But that's rock for you.
I couldn't have dreamed that up in a million years.
No, man. Not the blue land crabs.
No, the blue land crabs, one big claw on them. Crew guys called me up freaking out. Dude, I stepped on this crab, man. I said, crabs are in the ocean. Oh, dude, these motherfuckers run around out here, man.
Now, switching gears and going back to interviews of Dimebag himself. The following is Dimebag reflecting on his father and much more.
The only dude that really taught me anything was my dad. He's like a real well-rounded musician. He plays acoustic guitar real fluently, and he plays electric guitar. I mean, he plays anything from rock to country, and he's always cutting his own tunes. Yeah. So he plays everything on his tunes. He plays I come in and he's doing a keyboard part, and I go, what the fuck is he doing? You know, I mean, dude, he just blows me away. He never ever tried to cram me on one style or anything. I showed him that I learned Smoke on the Water, like on the E string, dun 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 dun. And dude, he goes, well, dude, check this out. He goes, this is what you call a bar chord. I can dig this. And then I really got into like the playing aspects and stuff. I would go over to my dad's house on a Sunday night before I go back to school on Monday. I would take a record like Cocaine by Eric Clapton or a Van Halen, which he had some problems with. He's going, damn, that dude uses a lot of reverb, son. With that kind of guitar sound, you can almost play anything. And that's where I got noticing tones and stuff like that and got into it. He showed me probably like 10 songs, like 10 different Sundays, and showing me songs. I started to pick up on it. And he said, man, are you paying attention to how I'm doing this? I'm just listening, and I'm trying to think of chords, bits and pieces of chords, and he would explain it out as best as possible. And then I just learned it on my own from there. He didn't ever just tell me to like totally, hey, watch your tone, son. Hey, I'll spank you. No, he just things that he would say, I would just link up to other value. There's so many values to look at, from note value to tone value.
Hey guys, this is from an interview Dimebag did in 1992 with Pete Brown. Dimebag talks about his criticism of shredders, how he writes solos, how Pantera writes songs, his relationship with Vinnie Paul, the Russia show, and more. The original audio for this had a lot of background noise. I was able to clean it up. There are a few parts, however, where the questions became inaudible. I'll fill those in myself.
I'm into melody, man. I can still shred. There's no problem doing that shit. I mean, that's like, with shredding, I think began with people, I don't want to diss anybody out, but maybe people that weren't talented enough or fucking happening enough to play like lead or to really feel something, where they just took out their aggressions on the guitar and they fucking hammered. I got aggressions just like everybody else. But I have the other side to me too. I just hear it like some dude that went to school and learned a computer and sit there can fucking patch in 20 million words per minute. You can learn that shit. It's just chops, dude. I mean, to play from the heart and really feel something and to fucking hammer something means a hell of a lot more than 20 million notes. The way I do solos is we write a song. We spend all the time writing the rhythm to the song and the structure and everything. We go, oh, now we need a lead part. I really work on keeping them interesting and innovative to my own extent that I can do it. What I do is they go, now we need a lead section here. And I go, let's just go to the key of A flat, man. And we'll just jam on that for 4 bars and we'll go back into the song. And usually we just do something like that to fake it for a sec. And then just to get the whole piece of music written. And then usually hardly ever changes or we'll put a little something else in. And once we lay a basic down, I'll take that home that night after I'm already fucking 6 beers down, a little buzzed. I'll go to my 4-track room. Right. I'll put it in my 4-track, and there's 2 tracks available to play on. I play one lead, I turn it off, I switch over to track 4, I play another lead, and then I go back and I sit there and I listen to it. Or sometimes like a Cemetery Gates or something off Cowboys From Hell. That's the very first lead I ever played on there, and I didn't even play a second when I said, fuck it, I just turned the thing off and I went to bed knowing that I was going to listen to that tomorrow and kind of work off of that a little bit. It's mostly spontaneous. I just want to go home and see what comes out instead of like doing it in the studio and getting frustrated and not getting a good lead and sitting there skits and going, oh no, wasting their time and my time because I'm not prepared.
Right. So you play a lot of acoustic. Your arpeggios on hollow are really tight. Do you play a lot of acoustic?
I don't think of it as like I think of the electric guitar. I play it for like a different release of just because it sounds different and the tension on the strings is different, like cat gut strings and shit. It's cool, man. You can like really flow on some stuff like that and brings different things out of you. I write a lot of stuff on acoustic and then play it on a fucking electric, but I don't claim to fame any acoustical values. Definitely.
Here, Dimebag's asked if the guys in Pantera all write the songs together.
Big time. I would say me and Vinny are like the main, we're just one chunk, man. Just put it that way. Rex is just one chunk with us too, man. I mean, the riffs are coming from me and Vinny's accommodating me with the fucking Latin rhythms or whatever it takes to fucking hang with it. And, Rex, man, he really fucking, in a cool way, knows what he thinks is his place as a bass player. I mean, he doesn't try to do all these double hammer-ons and shit like that. And he's just, I mean, I can respect him more for the way he is being solid and fucking just kick ass. He jams with Vinny like I jam with Vinny. They've been together for about as long as we have too. I mean,
you always just come up with ideas when you're standing around.
Phil sits in the control room and he'll go, "Oh man, that part's great. Do it 2 times. Let's see how it sounds." Or, "That part didn't fit." Phil's a brilliant listener. And so he coaches us. Yeah. I got the riffs. Vinny and Rex are the backbone, and we just fucking hammer them out. We wrote Vulgar Display of Power in 2 weeks.
Really?
I'm proud of that.
Wow.
We wrote it in 2 weeks.
It's fantastic.
I can't sit down and just decide to write. It comes out, spur of the moment, and that's how it's going to be. I mean, you know, I'll play something and somebody will go, "What was that?" Or something, it does something. And then I'll get like video camera out and film it anytime, anywhere, man. Do you know Vinny's my brother?
Yeah.
I've never jammed with another drummer. I never ever tried to form anything with another drummer in my life. So we grew up together. First song we ever played was Smoke on the Water. And then we were doing More Than a Feeling by Boston. And I thought I'd learned the riff right. And he goes, "Look, dude." He goes, he was trying to play it to me. And he goes, "Look, man, check this out. This is 1 and 2 and 3." He counted the time out to me and shit. And he goes, "Look, man, you're missing like 2 notes right there. If you can try to figure that out." We listened to the record and he goes, "Right there, you know." So he like helped me to get the time. After that, everything was like fine with time. We just grew from there, and we've always played together. Fucking me and him are like attached.
Here, Dimebag's asked who his influences were growing up.
Big time, early Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, and fucking Ace Frehley was a really huge influence on me. Man, I was talking to this dude the other night. I think I said it the best for the first time. He was trying to pick my brain on what influenced me to be like I am and why I do this and why I do that. Yeah. And I just told him, I said, "Who's your main dude?" He goes, "I'm into Yngwie right now." And he goes, "I know every solo and every this and every that." And I go, "Man, honestly, even since I was fucking 14 years old until now I'm 25, I've never learned more than like 2 or like 3 solos of any person's lead guitar playing. I never like really got all stoned and did a bunch of crank and sit there and all skitsed out and listened to every lead and learned every lick and try to figure out what scale and
trying to get the spirit of the player, or just
yeah, just the vibe, like a Van Halen record. Dude, I still listen to that shit today before I go on and play. The spontaneity and the liveness of that dude's guitar playing was just unfucking real. I do a lot more of the legato, like Edward stuff. I'm like, when people come out with a video camera, they film like close up of my right hand, and I'm sitting there going, doing like a double, a triple, a single, and a fucking rake and stuff, and my left hand's doing all the work. Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, easily. On Through the Night by Def Leppard. It was a huge influence on me. Kiss, double platinum. That was my original reason to ever want to play guitar. Yeah. Ace Frehley.
You know your scales and shit? So listen,
I know a major scale and a minor scale and a pentatonic blues scale, and that's like as far as deep as I ever got. 2 days ago, I bought a scale book, and I was like going over learning like all these 5 positions of like F major or something scale, something to feel like I was doing, feel like I was like digging in a little bit. Because dude, I'm not a heavy theory dude at all.
Here, Dimebag is asked if he ever took guitar lessons. Dimebag answers, and then he discusses how he was banned as a contestant from local guitar competition.
I took like 1 or 2 from one dude and then 1 from one dude. I started off about the age of 14, half 15, around there. They had this Q102, it was a radio station back then. That was the only happening rock station around there. They had hottest guitar player in Texas type thing. You know, they had the big commercial with a Q102, hottest guitar. But what the deal was, it said, record 2 minutes of your hottest playing, take them to this music store in Dallas. And they're going to listen to it. I mean, it was for all of Texas and stuff. And they listened to it, and they picked like the top, I believe, 15. Then there would be the big playoff, the big showdown at a popular club in Dallas, which was the Agora Ballroom. Anyway, so get up there and you play for something like 5 minutes apiece. Get up there and wail and shit, and then they pick like the top 3 dudes. First time I got up there and I wailed and I did what I could. Got picked for the top 15. Went to the club, had to get my parents to get me in the club and shit because I was underage. I was the youngest dude out of everybody. I didn't think I did that well. I got picked for the top 15 and we got out there, and then I got picked for the top 3. I hammered as hard as I could. Dude, I won first place and I just could not fucking believe it. It was a Dean guitar like I play, and I just died because I always wanted one of those, and I won that. Next time they had another one, I entered. Of course, I got in, fucking won first place again, Charvel, entered again, won ESP guitar, entered again. Next time, this is like 2 months per pop or 3 per pop.
What are you doing that people like? Just shredding?
I did a couple of licks that I'd made up on my own. I'm like one of them dudes got like decent at playing lead guitar, like within like 3 months or something like that. I could just like burn pretty quick. I had good chops and I could play lead, and actually had a half-assed idea about what it was. I think that showed through, and of course I listened to records and I sit down and I'd pick out leads and stuff. I would do like a little bit of a Edward Van Halen solo, maybe a little Eruption, Randy Rhoads or something, like Mother Earth or something like that. And I guess at the time those were the real respected guitar players, and I did it well, man.
Eventually, did they say you can't enter anymore?
That's what happened. I went to turn in a tape again, and they said, look, man, just be a judge, dude. You already won everything you can win. Give somebody else a shot at it.
Here, Dimebag discusses more of his influences and musical style.
I think there's a lot of great guitar players from Texas, such as like Bugs Henderson, Jimmy Wallace, Ricky Lynn, Rocky Athis, which are fucking big influences on me when I was growing up and stuff. And I would like go to a club and watch those dudes, and I'd go home and I would just sit there and play. I was lucky enough that my dad worked at Pantera Sound at the time, which is the studio that he eventually owned, and where we cut all of our records at. And he was doing a record on Bugs Henderson. He's a true blues player.
For a metal guy, you're singing a lot more. You're spinning those notes and screaming them. A lot of guys are just like into the shredding thing.
I go off on shit, dude, and I go off on my music, fucking rage on it. I like to fucking rip, dude, period. Anything I do, anytime, unless I'm sick as piss, man. I like to fucking just go with it.
You ever got hurt at a gig?
Oh yeah, several times. Got knocked out. Got fucking almost knocked myself out trying to do a ridiculous stage dive with the guitar into a crowd with like 50 people at the end of a night at a club about 3 years ago. Fucking sprained ankle big time.
Tell me about the Moscow gig.
Amazing.
How did you get on it?
The guy that signed us, the A&R guy that had all the belief in us in the first place, he got hooked up with Warner, and he was one of the main dudes that threw the whole Monsters of Rock concert there in Moscow. His name's Mark Ross. He's been very good to us all along, and they needed one more band to fill the shoes. This dude that was a promoter over there in Russia and saw us in Europe somewhere, and he really enjoyed the show and shit, and he goes, what about this band Pantera? Because they said they wanted somebody that would be real honest and could do the fans some justice and stuff. And Mark just died. He goes, fuck, dude, I signed those motherfuckers. Let me give them a call. I want to do it. Funnier part about that was during the Cowboys From Hell record, we took a bunch of breaks to go play like gigs and keep doing everything and keep it all going instead of concentrating on the record. It kind of broke us from getting like the most concentration out of it. So we said, we're never doing that again. And then on the next record, we get this call right in the fucking middle of it. They get offered to go to Moscow, play with Metallica, AC/DC, and we just go, we gotta do it. So we took a break, went over. The crowd was, dude, it was insane. It was insane. I mean, I'd never played in front of that many people in my life, and probably never will again.
Hey guys, now I'm going to show you the interview Dimebag and Phil Anselmo did in Russia in September of 1990.
Texas, man, they're Nazi cops.
We still gotta go to court, dude.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think about that?
For assault on an officer.
Yeah, just totally backwards.
Yeah, the cop is kicking his ass. I'm supposed to sit there and watch.
He's standing there like this in a parking lot about to leave, fucking trampled from the backside.
On his back. A rookie, this 20-year-old fucking punk cop who got picked on all his life, so he went and got himself a badge, and now he's the man. And he can fucking scorn us wild living, rock and roll,
free-loving motherfuckers.
Fuck you, dumbass.
It's really pretty fucking hilarious if you think about it. Stupid. When have they helped you, man?
Never. To serve and protect.
By the law in the state.
Sure, give us a ticket. My mom got jumped. They ran. Where were you, asshole? Writing tickets to me, the hard-working citizens, man. I'm making a buck like anyone else. Pulling in different directions because of color of skin is ridiculous, I feel. And stereotyping and stuff like that. It's just bad blood, bad shit. When the full reality of it all is, when this country, and I'm talking about American pride, USA pride, when this country goes to war, they don't just get the black soldiers to go and fight the battle. They don't just get the white soldiers. They get Mexicans, blacks, whites, Orientals, all from the States, Indians, everyone. And that's the truth.
Where you guys coming from the South, you still see a lot of that happening down there. People just not willing to.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
man.
it's not just in the
It's
South.
not just the South. You ought to play Cincinnati. Just the racial thing is painful, man. You look around. Pantera shows, there's blacks, whites, etc., etc. And everyone's welcome. Russians hating Americans and the competition between the two wasn't relevant at all, man. The mere fact that we were Americans and we were identified as, people in bands and stuff coming over to jam for them and stuff, they were nothing but respectful.
Respectful as hell.
And they were nice and they were willing and they were just, they just wanted to know. They want what we have as Americans.
Right.
When I got off the plane, I left from the airport and saw Six Flags, over Texas. And I thought to myself, man, no one in Russia is even, maybe they've seen pictures of it, but they've never been to a place like this. Made me feel kind of bad because they're starved for entertainment, man.
They're starved for food, for that matter.
Yeah.
Really.
It's still communism, they don't know
it's
how
not going to change overnight, that's
right,
for sure.
Exactly. Just the mere fact that they brought these bands over was a taste of the Western culture and the taste of, what it could be like, and the mere fact that the kids were breaking free and
starting to have a good time for change.
A lot of kids got bashed. Yeah. And I mean bashed severely.
Well, like what would they be doing to get bashed?
Enjoying
starting
themselves.
doing this shit,
they get fucked up. People, they had vodka bottles. They were out there for 3 days, There's no toilets. They piss on the ground. They shit on the ground. They fucking drink, go with it. Fucking nothing to eat, so they're drinking. So they're gonna
fucking
get
nothing up for real, though.
Yeah, well, all it was, and you see this happen in a lot of shows in America, when you get the military there pushing everyone around, the kids are gonna rebel and throw their bottles and want to fight.
Fucking A.
If you get a big, dopey, steroid bastard bouncer throwing a 14-year-old kid around on stage, every kid in that audience is gonna start spitting. Our songs, everyone says, oh yeah, y'all are so angry, you throw, this new record, it's just so angry. But it's in a fucking positive direction. I'm not fucking yelling about irrelevant shit. I'm not yelling about Satan. I'm not yelling about fucking whatever. I'm yelling about stuff that matters to us and to most of the crowd that surrounds us, It makes a fuck, Not the long-haired, untouchable on the stage playing our metal axes for the children of the night. We're not like that, man.
Some youngsters that probably don't understand what we're doing, but we're giving them this freak show, so they're like entertained. And then
you got the hardcore
the hardcore dudes coming over the balcony.
Europeans are notorious for ignoring opening bands and stuff like that, and maybe even dissing them. However,
we hammered the piss out of them.
We hammered the crap out of them.
They didn't forget who we were, that's for sure.
No, they didn't.
We'll go back. We'll do it right this time. We'll play clubs and stuff. Not that we did it wrong last time, but I think people understand what we're doing. We'll do clubs and
at least if we go over there by ourselves, the crowd that comes out is going to come to see us.
What we're doing, right.
So I mean, that's the way to do it. The song Walk, that's about, when I was on tour or any of us are on tour, we go out and we leave and we can't call everybody all the time anymore. We can't drink beer with the same buddies. You can't do that anymore. This is our job. This is what we do. This is what we love. This is what we've worked for years on end. And then you get back into town and all your friends who you thought were your friends are all snickering behind your back and talking about this and that and just, Phil's not cool anymore and Darrell's just
we really changed.
We we've really changed. And that's what Walk's about. Walk's about, it's like show some respect and just walk on, man, because you've done talk behind my back. Here's my face now. Talk to me like that now. Because when they see you, they're like, hey, cool, dude, good to see you, man, right on. And and that's not too cool. No. That ain't cool at all.
In this interview with Dimebag and Phil, they discuss making Walk, Vulgar Display of Power, Pantera's tension with Megadeth, and more. Right after this clip, I'm going to show you another clip of Dave Mustaine discussing Dimebag. This is from 1992 with Headbangers Ball.
You know, in the lyrics, it does seem that you're very critical of the world. Do you hope that you can change anything through lyrics or music?
Not really change anything, just enlighten people a little bit, you know. But I'm no preacher. I'm just singing songs that make me feel. Writing songs that we feel, you know, that make us feel one way or another. And that's what, you know, that's.
It's like not trying. It's just like letting it happen.
Yeah, letting it happen, you know. Okay, let's think of this. You know, we don't think very much.
It works. It works. Most of the lyrics certainly are based on anger and frustration, but it is kind of tempered with other emotions. Do you find that the best way of expressing yourself writing songs?
Well, you know, everybody always find it really easy to find, you know, the angry and the aggressive and the frustrated parts. But, you know, to me, it's like a therapy thing, and it seems like it's almost like not a story really, but at the end of each song, there's a positive thing that comes out of each one of them. You know, they're positive to me. You know, the lyrics on Vulgar all are very relevant to anybody who's listening. You know.
Absolutely. Your last album, Cowboys From Hell, was very raw, very aggressive. For a vulgar display of power, how did you try and eclipse that?
We just did it like we do it live. Yeah, we just wrote the song. We just wrote 11 songs, and they just turned out like that. We had come up with the title previous to that, you know, Vulgar Display of Power, you know, because we were so pumped to do the next record. We go, man, we're going to write this heavy record, man. We know it's going to be heavy just because we had spoken to each other about, you know, ideas of the riffs and the songs and stuff, and we go, man, you know, this sucker's going to work. And it just
had to live up to the name, Vulgar Display of Power. Yeah.
It's co-produced by Vinny, right?
Right. That's Vinny, the drummer. He's real good at that. Him and Terry work together in studio really hard.
It's Terry Date.
Okay. On the album, there are some kind of mellower moments. Was it the intention that these would make the heavier parts all the more like intense and shocking?
It works that way, but
dynamics.
Yeah. Dynamics. Sure. It definitely wasn't trying to be a hit single or something.
No, we just write songs. Period.
But it gives some light and shade, doesn't it?
Well, we're not the type of band that's just hooked on this one thing either. You know?
Yeah.
Like the next record that we do is like we'd like to tell everybody, it's not going to be Vulgar Display of Power Part 2. It's going to be a new Pantera album. And, you know, with keeping that in mind, it's going to be the heaviest record of 93 also, or 94, whenever the damn thing comes out.
Now, you guys describe your sound as power groove. That was how you described it on Cowboys From Hell. How have you developed that for a Vulgar Display of Power?
Well,
heavy
we write songs that move people. Instead of going 100 million miles per hour, instead of following anything really, you know, we just write songs that will move you, you know, and make you want to dance, man. And I'm not talking about, for those of you who don't know, we're not talking about ballroom waltzing. We're talking about dancing. You know what I'm saying? You punks out there know what I'm talking about.
So when you've been on stage, are you like really, really psyched, or are you like emotionally, physically drained?
On stage, just depending on
when you finish
depending on the day, on the gig. A lot of times, you know, so we're really hard on one another as a whole, you know, and also we're hard on each other individually because, you know, we always want to do our best, you know, put forth 150% every night, and that's usually the main topic after a show, you know, just how we did. And if everything clicked and happened, man, we were usually ready to drink some beer afterwards. Thank you very much.
After I've already had about a 6.
How do you find the European audience compared to the American audience?
It's tough to say anything really about it because we're playing to, like, you know, we're the opening band. You know, people come to see Megadeth, but now more so, you know, there's some Pantera people in the audience and stuff. I think in order to pass a true judgment, we're going to have to do our own thing, you know, play our own shows. But so far, it
ain't been bad, man.
No, it hasn't been bad at all.
You guys, you played a big show in the US with Megadeth a little last year, I think it was. Did that lead to this support stuff on the European tour?
Yeah, it did. In the past, you know, we had bad blood and stuff like that. We played the show together and mellowed things out, you know, kissed and made up, so to speak. And here we are in this tour. Everything's really smooth and cool, man. Well. Like the other night, we played with Megadeth. It was like a smaller place, small club, and it was killer, man. We miss those. We miss those.
You're going to finish the Megadeth tour. It's actually quite a long tour, isn't it? And then what's going to happen for you next?
We go back to the States. We go out with Trouble for 3 weeks. Take Christmas off.
As mentioned, there was a bit of tension between Megadeth and Pantera in the early 90s. However, there was no one particular incident which caused the tension. It was more of a clashing of personalities, particularly between Phil Anselmo and Dave Mustaine. There was also a bit of an age gap. Dave Mustaine, for instance, is roughly 7 years older than Phil. As mentioned here by Phil, the tension between the two bands did squander out by 1992. However, over the next couple of years, tension sprung up again between the two bands, particularly between Phil and Dave. Thankfully, though, the situation never boiled over into something ugly. Now, interestingly, as some of you may know, in the late 80s, Dave Mustaine actually called Dimebag and asked if he'd be interested in joining Megadeth. Here's Dave discussing this with Heavy Consequence in 2020.
Darrell, he goes, "Can I bring my brother?" And I was like, "Well, who's your brother, bro?" He goes, "Finn Paul." "Wow, what do you fucking mean? My brother." And I thought, okay, hey, who's Vinnie Paul? "Oh, it's his brother, the drummer." And I got back on the phone and said, "Well, we already got a drummer." And he goes, "Well, then okay, go." And I went, "Oh, fuck, are you kidding me?" I said, "Our drummer's really good." And he goes, "Well, so's my brother. See you later, Mustaine." And I went, "Okay, see you later." And then I saw him again, and we'd gone out on tour with them. We've had good times, bad times. You know, there was a time when I was over in Holland, and Darrell had tattooed one of my lyrics on his leg.
The Megadeth lyric Dimebag had tattooed on his leg was Black Tooth Grin. That lyric is from the song Sweating Bullets, one of the big tracks from Megadeth's album Countdown to Extinction. That album was released in 1992, the same year as Vulgar Display of Power. From September to December of 92, Pantera was an opening act for Megadeth as part of the Countdown to Extinction tour. According to Dave Mustaine, Dimebag would get a tattoo of something that reminded him of every tour he did. In this case, Dimebag tattooed the Megadeth lyric. As some of you may know, Dimebag would go on to have his own signature cocktail called Black Tooth Grin. As a matter of fact, there's a line of whiskey called Black Tooth Grin honoring Dimebag. Now, going back to Phil and Dimebag, the following is more from the interview they did together in 1993 with Much Music.
We're not just a basic thrash band. Stop, go, stop. We have parts, we write songs. And I think lyrically, we're way more in touch than the average band. So it's up to us to not only put out a great record, but to do one that's will still be cool 10 years from now, hopefully. Relax, you know? Just because we sell more records than you and Pantera, they're not original. They sound like this band and this band and this band. So that's the new brand of crap we've been faced with. But you know what? That's just a mere 10% of all of the rest that we see every night from the fans and the people who come out to the shows and support us, because that makes 200% over our heads. You know what I'm saying? It rises us to a new level every night. So it's all worth it.
Do you think that you can still be a real hard, angry band in light of commercial success?
I think it's all has to deal with putting things into perspective. You can write an aggressive song about, you know, like I said before, you know, like flowers or, you know, or fixing the pipes in my house. You know, you can write aggressive music no matter what. But I think I know as a lyricist what the kids are going to want to hear. I don't think we can really write a song that doesn't sound aggressive.
Do you think that's negative at all, especially for the kids?
No way, man. Because I think the negative thing to do would be to put out a record that the kids would not be able to identify with. You know, things are going to extremes. You know, lately, you know, like Skid Row's last record was definitely heavier than their first record. Everything's getting more extreme. Even what's commercially acceptable today. You know, even a band like Nirvana. I'm just saying in general, man, that music itself is moving towards a more aggressive thing. We never consciously set out to be the heaviest band in the world that's commercially acceptable. We just wrote songs and we played our show live like we do every night, and it's paid off for us.
With this next clip, I'm going to rewind it back a bit further to an interview they did in Toronto in 1990. Phil and Dimebag discuss on the TV show Power Hour how they write music, their tattoos, the Cowboys record, and more.
Aimed at you!
Cowboys from Hell. We're on the air.
When you write your songs, they're written intentionally to be performed live.
Sure.
So is that important?
Oh,
Guts out.
That's where, you know, expend all our Man, everybody will say, yes, that's where we expend our aggression, but we really, anybody who sees us, we're energetic and we're full of hell, and it's, that's what it's about. You gotta catch that groove live, man. Make those people move, man. And if they don't, then they may as well just come up on stage and jump off the middle,
And we've had guys in here before, like with tons of tattoos. I mean, the guys from Circus of Power, they get tattoos everywhere and stuff. But not very often do we get guys with them on their head. Now, I can understand. We get a shot of this one here, which is Cowboys From Hell, which is the album, the single from you guys. But, I mean, what does strength symbolize? I mean, why the word strength?
I'm into heavy self-belief and strength and power within, and that's my bag of tricks right there. I'm into that strength.
Can we see the other side there? Come on.
All right.
Just show us.
Cowboys tat.
Another Cowboys tat over here. Right into your head.
Ain't I cute?
That ain't gonna leave.
That's right.
We think of bands, metal bands, we don't think of them as coming from Texas. I mean, we
ZZ Top.
Yeah, that's true. But we don't think of bands like, we think of like Los Angeles, like bands leave Texas, go to Los Angeles, leave Texas, go to New York, and then they start like,
There's a bunch of those out there, ain't there? Whole bunch of those out there.
Tons.
How many from Texas?
I don't know. How many?
I don't know. There's a couple.
Flip the coin. You got a coin?
Flip the coin. There's a few. But no, man, you got to see our fans in Texas, man. It's like, why should we leave, man? Rabid, they kill each other.
Check it out, like the Cowboys flick.
Yeah, Cowboys From Hell video. That's like actual
filmed in Dallas.
It just shows, and it's, that wasn't nothing, It was like, hey, welcome to the video shoot. Boom!
Oh. What's the Toronto audience going to see tonight?
Aggressiveness, sweat, vulgarity, entertainment, a freak show.
A little bit of that. Lit him up.
Are you guys working on stuff for the new record already?
Shit, we already got two cuts
two tracks already.
Really?
And we got some time off coming up.
Now, when you actually do get time off, what kind of stuff do you guys like to do?
Boxing. It's my favorite sport, man.
Serious?
Holyfield and Douglas is coming up. Tyson's fighting soon. I like the smart Gore.
I like the 4-track.
He writes all these crazy songs and stuff.
4-track.
Drink. I like to drink a little.
Oh yeah, just
drink a little.
Hang out.
Yeah,
friends.
And boxing, anything like violence in a way, hockey fights.
So does all that stuff then manifest itself in your writing and your performance?
It finds its way a little bit, I'd say.
But I mean, I don't spit blood on stage or anything, and I don't wear a pair of gloves. But I mean, it's all energetic,
This next interview is also from 1990. Here they discuss Cowboys on Headbangers Ball.
Being that you guys are from Texas and the album is called Cowboys From Hell, a little bit about you guys? The furthest thing I would think from Cowboys, but
that's what it's about. It's like yikes. It's like Cowboys From Hell. It's like tongue in cheek. It's like, what's wrong with this picture? You know what I'm saying? It's like you figure a Texas band is like ZZ Top, stuff like that, southern rock or something, and then you got a band like us. Not exactly thrash, but definitely not
Chet Atkins.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
As far as the sound, I mean, other than being a fast, aggressive band, you've got a good voice. I mean, you can scream, but you've also got a nice voice.
You got a nice voice on it.
To see Pantera on the road, when you guys play in Texas, is there a good kind of hardcore scene in Texas?
Rips. It's ridiculous, man.
Pretty crazy?
Yeah.
Great.
So you guys like playing live, don't you?
It's my favorite
there's some active audience participation.
That's what our shows are about, We feel that we're the closest band in the world to our crowd. And anyone who's been to our shows and had a good time at our shows, which is, it's true, man. We love it, man.
You also, I read, was produced by Terry Date, who also produced Soundgarden's record.
Oh, yeah.
Did he go at this a different way? I mean, when you guys look for a producer, what do you say? I want to sound like...
Put it this way, when we talked to Terry, he had the same drive and attitude that we did towards this record.
Terry Date produced 4 of the band's 5 classic albums, Cowboys, Vulgar Display, Far Beyond Driven, and The Great Southern Trendkill. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a clip from my interview with Pantera producer Sterling Winfield and Pantera engineer Tim Kimsey, where they talk about Pantera's relationship with Terry Date. For those of you who may be curious which album Sterling produced, he was the co-producer on Pantera's final album, Reinventing the Steel. He was also a co-producer on Damage Plan's only album, Newfound Power. This next part is from the interview Pantera did in 2000 with the Japanese journalist Hiro Arishima. On March 21st of 2000, Pantera released their last ever album, Reinventing the Steel. Of course, at the time, no one knew this would be their last album. In this interview, the band talks about how they write songs, their approach to music, and more.
Some songs we write and they're done, and I go, wow, we didn't even think about putting a solo in that song. Guess it didn't need it. Fuck it, you know? But dude, I love to play lead guitar, and yeah, that's one of our power elements, you know, and we do it still. We still do that. Yeah, we sing. Yeah, we got riffs, not just ching, 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 you know. Don't get me going.
The tempo things for us had, when we were writing a song, usually whatever we start at feels natural. We're not a band that starts on writes a song and goes, let's see how it sounds faster. Let's see how it sounds slower. It feels right, you know, right when you start, you just go, that's it, or you go, it's a little quick, and you bring it down. But it's not one thing where, like, a lot of record producers will go and see a band and go, that's a cool song, but you need to bring it way down tempo-wise, or you need to really kick it up to have some life. You know, it always feels natural to us. And if it doesn't, we'll toss it, start on something else. If Phil could come in, say, I got this idea for this hardcore up-tempo song, you know, we're going to go. And we just take off from there, and he'll go, no, that ain't it. And we'll start putting this in. You know, everybody pieces everything together, and everybody is very critical of each other's parts, you know, all the way down to the way the guitar player's bending the notes, or where the bass comes in, where the bass stops, how the song is going to be tuned. You know, some of them are tuned down, some of them are tuned up. It could start with the drums. There's a lot of songs. Primal Concrete Sledge, it started with just a drum group. Becoming is just a drum group, you know, and I sit down and played it, and the guys went, wow, and then they started coming up with their parts around it, you know, so there's a lot. It could come from anywhere.
Usually Darrell comes up with primary riffs, and from there, we all put in our 2 cents. Phil might have a riff that he's thinking about, or, you know, Darrell will come up with a skeleton riff, and we'll all listen to it and go, no, that part's good, let's try it this way, you know, so it takes the 4 of us collaborating with each other for the final product. So if there has been a lot of, you know, stuff with bass riffs that'll turn into another part of the song, everybody together is a collaboration, because it takes the 4 of us to be Pantera.
There's a bunch of parts that you could actually that could be considered a guitar solo that aren't really just a wide out free for all, you know, all this shit, you know what I mean? We're going for power, you know, and if the song calls for it, I do them.
Here, they discuss making an album without their longtime producer, Terry Date. As mentioned, Terry produced Cowboys, Vulgar Display, Far Beyond Driven, and the Great Southern Trendkill.
Vinny is an engineer, and, you know, he's co-produced every record with Terry. We just, you know, it just felt it was time for us to go out on our own.
I have full and complete confidence in Vince and Don behind the board. There's no doubt in my mind. And I think the proof is there. I think it's devastating sound. This is my favorite sounding record, Reinventing the Steel.
Sterling. Now, he co-produced with us on that too. It's just, we wanted something very, very raw. Something that was, there's no doubt we'll have fun playing these songs live. There's not overlaid vocals and overlaid guitars and stuff where you really, you know, have to slim it back to play it live. You know, we wanted it to be very representative of us, you know, and the Great Southern Trendkill was a very attitude-oriented record. It was all just about how loud, how noisy, how disturbing could this record be. You know, it came out in '96 when heavy metal here in the States in particular was at an all-time low for this decade. You know, nobody even wanted the term heavy metal associated with them except us. And if you hated heavy metal, we wanted you to hate it that much more by putting our record on and listen to how obnoxious it was. And this record, you know, we wanted it to be all song oriented. It's about the songs, the best songs. It's not about, you know, it has some attitude to it, but the songs were important. We wanted the songs that have good structure, good grooves. Grooves were really important on this album. And, you know, Phil really wanted to do more vocally as a singer as far as melodies go, and just using everything that he's able to do instead of just, you know, balls to the wall screaming on everything.
Back to basics. Old school heavy metal.
We worked with Terry Date in the past, and he is the best producer. And he's, for one, so busy, and for two, you know, we're at a point where we pretty much know what the hell we got going and stuff. That's how it usually goes. But fuck it, as far as us controlling everything, fuck yes, we know exactly what we want, and it ain't super easy. But at the same time, at least you have your own ass to kick if it don't turn out like you like, you know.
I've always been involved in the business side of everything, you know, try to make sure all of us are taken care of properly. You know, there's
keep all the loose ends tied up, so to speak. I guess the easiest way for me to put it is that I'm probably the most responsible guy out of all the other guys, and they all count on me. So I don't really feel the pressure. It's just kind of like something that's been part of what I've been doing ever since I've been part of this band. And it's an important part. The guys count on me for that. So
I think we definitely went back to the roots. I think a lot of times in some of our songs, especially in like Far Beyond Driven, which is still a great record, Trendkill, we had put too many parts into the song. Wanted to simplify and make it, make every song that we had, just make it simple and killer. Because that's in the past that, everybody looks back to say the Vulgar Display of Power and says, well, that's the record that people really looked on as quintessential Pantera. That's just the way these songs evolved. We wanted to make them not shorter, but just more powerful with the main riffs instead of putting a whole bunch of parts and being too technical with it. And in some of the songs, we did come back and simplify a little bit more because we could tell of the way that each song was coming into the record that all these songs will kick your ass.
I'm going to show you now 3 clips from my interview with Sterling Winfield, Pantera producer, and Tim Kimsey, Pantera studio engineer, where they talk about Pantera's bad breakup, Damage Plan, and Dimebag's death in the first clip. And then in the second clip, they discuss Pantera's relationship with producer Terry Date, how they'd record music in the studio, and in the third clip, they discuss the making of 5 Minutes Alone from the Far Beyond Driven record. If you want to see the full Pantera interview, it's the end screen at the end of this video. The relationship between Dime and Vinny, during Damage Plan, was their relationship the same, or did, I guess for lack of a better word, the bitterness of how Pantera ended, did it affect them as people in any way?
Yeah, it affected all of us. We thought Pantera would live forever. It was too big, it was too powerful, it was too good to be not only destroyed, but destroyed in that fashion so publicly. And it was a huge betrayal of all of that brotherhood and the way that it happened. And what was going on with Damage Plan was that it originally started as just me and Dime in the studio, and it was going to be his solo album. Because when we got done with Reinventing the Steel tour cycle, we were in Japan, and we said, Philip was getting ready to make a Down record because Philip made the demand that, hey, I'm not making another damn Pantera record until I make the next Down record and I get to do something different, because he was growing weary of Pantera. So not only did that happen, but Dime and Vinny were the ones that went to bat for Phil to get his record deal for Down 2. So they were the reason he got his deal with Elektra. And so during that space, well, Dime was going to go do his thing musically. And that's what we started on. That's what Damage Plan ended up being. But as we got further through the process with Damage Plan, and Vinny started hearing some of the stuff we were doing, and he was like, man, I can lay some drums on that'll sound killer. Let's do this. And Dime's only stipulation was, I don't want it to sound like a Pantera record. This is my record. And he was like, fine, but let's just go do it. And so we started all working together, me and Dime and Vinny, on those songs. And then as we came through, the next month or two, after we're still working on this stuff, here comes all this stuff on the internet of Phil and Rex talking trash about this whole thing. And we're literally sitting there looking at each other going, what is going on? What is happening? And that was the beginning of the end right there. And yeah, it changed them. And then at a certain point, they were like, we've got to move on. We have to, there's no reconciliation here. We have to move forward. And yeah, they weren't real happy about going from playing arenas back down to playing clubs, but that's what they did because they loved the music. They wanted to keep making music. And so they just kept moving forward, and that was going to be the thing. Well, we're not going to do Pantera right now. We're going to do Damage Plan. Hell, we didn't even have a name for it for the first 10 months that we were working on it. We worked on it for over a year before we released it. So yeah, it was an odd time, and it changed all of us, not just Dime and Vinny, but me too, and bunch of dudes that were on the original crew, and it just, it changes a lot of shit.
Were you there on tour with Damageplan the night of Dimebag's death?
I was not. I was home. I was on that tour about 6 months before all that went down. I got to a point on the Damageplan tour where my drinking had taken over and I didn't want to be there anymore. The beautiful thing about those guys was, hey man, if you need help or you need a break, take it. And that's essentially what happened. And I left the tour because I was not happy anymore. Me and the tour manager got into a fight and I was tired and just beat down. And so I went home. Yeah, I was not there that night. And had I been there, who knows how my life would be right now.
Well, I can almost tell you, and not to elongate this conversation about that, but one of the things that I remember when Sterling called me that night, and I remember very specifically where I was, and the mood went from, hey, we're getting ready for, the holiday season, so on and so forth, to shit. Man, it's almost like tunnel vision. The moment that Sterling got those words out of his mouth, it's like, my whole world has now changed. I'm not anywhere as close to these guys as Sterling was, but I don't know if you remember this, Sterling, but one of the things that I said to you is, I thank God above that you weren't there.
Yeah, I remember.
Because
I was pretty obliterated, but I remember.
I think you might have been all up in that.
Oh yeah, I most definitely would have. The whole fight or flight thing. What do you do when you're faced with that? And no one knows until it's that time. So I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. And everybody says that. I'm glad you weren't there. And but there's that survivor's guilt that happens.
Sure.
Lots of therapy later. I can tell you that that's just the way that was meant to be.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's nuts. When that happened, I mean, I guess, Sterling, this would be a question for you. Was it a guaranteed Damageplan was done, or was that not even something people were thinking about at the time?
I think it was a guarantee done. Just like at that point, I think it was also a guarantee that Pantera was done. Dime was the heart and soul of both of those bands. And with Vinny included, they were the ones that came up with all of that stuff. And without those two, it never would have happened. I'm not belittling Rex or Phil or their parts in any of this. But yeah, both those two bands were completely done when that happened. And I think that it basically put the cork in a very short and powerful legacy. And also that it put the end curly Q on this will never happen again kind of thing. Any legitimate reincarnation furthering of any legitimacy to any of that, it will never happen again, because they only made one of those, man. They made one dime and that was it.
Yeah. Did Vinny ever recover fully from Dime's death, or did that never leave him?
Never left him.
I don't think it's left any of us.
Yeah. No, it changed all of us in different ways. But no, after that, he went on to do Hell Yeah. I was there for all of that. And he got to go out and play and have the joy of music back in his life after his brother died, which he thought he would never find again, but he did. That's good. Not like that, not on that level. And I don't mean financially or successfully, but just that bond that he had with his brother musically. But yeah, that he had a hole in his heart. He was literally a different person after his brother died for the 13 years that he was still around. He was not the same person.
Yeah, it's sad. But I mean, it goes to show how close they were and how important that relationship was. So
they were not twins, but they should have been twins.
Obviously, we know what happened. If
that didn't happen. If Dimebag was still with us, was Damage Plan going to be a long-term band, or was there always the thought of reuniting with Pantera eventually?
Knowing Dime and Vinny as people, I would say that Pantera would have eventually gotten together, and it would have been Dime that would have facilitated that. Because Dime was the kind of person that didn't like holding on to that shit, and it would have eventually righted itself, I believe.
I agree with Sterling. Sterling was much closer to all of that than I was when all of that started going down. But just once again, you know, I've said this before, the character, a lot of folk think of, you know, Pantera being this just angry or maybe aggressive, this or that. But the truth is the just the, I don't even know what the right word for this would be, but the human element with these guys was just impeccable. They
could have been assholes, but they weren't.
They weren't. Not ever. And I think it's fair to say Sterling and I both, we've encountered a few of those along the way.
Oh yeah. Hell, I encountered some yesterday.
Sorry, dude.
It never ends.
Sorry, man.
No, man, I think Dime would have totally righted that stuff. They had you know, they're brothers. They fight. The bands fight. It's a marriage. It's a 4 or 5 way marriage, you know, and you're gonna fight. You're gonna argue. Even the best marriages need maintenance. Even the best relationships have rough moments, you know, and just multiply that times 4, and that's the dynamic you have in a room full of dudes that are trying to create and have a common vision. Just that alone, in and of itself, is a most difficult task. To get someone to share the same vision with another person. And if you get 4 people that share that same vision, even for a minute, that's an amazing thing.
Hey guys, this is now the part where they discuss Terry Date's relationship with Pantera and how the band approached recording music with him. If you want to see the full Pantera interview, it's the end screen at the end of this video.
You're either all in or you're not going to be a part of it. That was the work ethic. And we've got some funny stories that kind of deal with that too. You know, as much as I love Terry, the actual truth is very first day that they walk into the studio, Terry was basically like, I don't need these 2 guys. I don't need Sterling. I don't need Tim. We're going to be here for a while. And, you know, my version of the story is that, and Sterling, correct me if I'm wrong on this, it was the guys in the band that just basically kind of went, no, these are our guys, and we want them here.
Absolutely. And not that Terry was trying to not include us. It was, he's used to working by himself without an assistant or a second engineer, and that was the way he rolled, and he was being protective of what that bubble was, you know. I think, and so not to belittle anything about Terry, because that dude is a absolute gem of a person anyways. But no, that's exactly what happened. And he was like, well, I really don't need anybody, you know, but after 5 minutes with Dime and Vinny, they were like, no, these guys, we need them here. They're part of the team. They're going to help you focus on what you need to focus on. And that's what happened, literally.
That's really cool.
And, you know, if I could add to that, and it turned out just so good, because at some point, you know, Terry needs to leave. He needs to go back and rest for the day. That's the other thing is that a lot of people forget. These sessions, Daniel, weren't, you know, 4 or 5 hours. These sessions were days. Sometimes I don't recall ever a period of time that we were with Pantera that we didn't go home at some point, but these were very long days.
Yeah, they were
12, 14, 16-hour days.
16-hour days, yeah.
And so I guess the point here was that it really kind of turned out well for everybody. Number one, it gave Sterling and I an opportunity, if you will, to take care of some of the mechanical, technical business, if you will, that Terry very easily could do, and I'm sure would have handled that extremely well. But it's like, to add to that, it showed that he had confidence in us. Guys, I'm going back to the hotel, got to get some rest, we're going to be back tomorrow. Here's what I need to happen tonight before you leave the studio, before 7 a.m. tomorrow morning arrives. Here's the task for the day.
So would it be fair to say, if I could just jump in, so would it be fair to say, I guess, your relationship with Terry, you being both of you guys, I guess it developed over the course of the time you were working with him?
Yes, almost immediately.
Yes, because it took that, what Tim was just talking about, it took that stuff off of Terry's plate so Terry could concentrate on the art of mixing. And the actual task, the artistic task of what needed to happen there, his role as producer, keeping that train on the tracks. Me and Tim are handling the mundane things like, make sure the tape machine's calibrated, if we need to edit, make sure we got what we need. This is pre-Pro Tools, it's when Pro Tools was just starting to appear on the scene. So it was all analog, 24-track, 2-inch tape, and outboard gear, no plugins. This was a real studio with real analog gear that breaks and has to be maintained. And so, we get on the phone and call this guy because I need this piece of gear here tomorrow. Those kinds of things. Call Nashville, call Dream Hire Nashville, and have this put on a truck. Things like that. It's not as simple as it is today. You're talking 25 years ago.
To kind of chime in, I don't know that I would ever want to go back to the days of 24-track 2-inch tape and hurdles, things to get past with all of that. I don't know that I would ever want to go back to that. But at the same time, I think that we're still exploring uncharted territory when it comes to isolation, whether it's the engineer and the band or the band members. Hey, just send me the song. I'll put the vocals on at my place and I'll send it back. And, and then no one's really rubbing elbows with one another.
I think that's been a very big step backwards for music in general. That's just my opinion. Yeah, I echo that too, Tim, because wow. Yeah.
Yeah, in my view, I think that I think the technology has opened so many. I think it's a net positive to technology, but the one big drawback is that now you don't need to spend years and years learning how to really master your vocals or to play a guitar or whatever it may be. You can just kind of do it programmed, which is great, but it completely kills the necessity to have a band. And I think that's been really detrimental for rock and roll specifically. You know what I mean? So it's a really double-edged sword. And I don't know, man. I would love to see a kick butt new band just blow up and get huge, but I feel like the structure of the business is not in its favor. But if a band can pull it off, it would be amazing. So fingers crossed with that one,
I totally, yes, I concur with that. Not to cut you off, Sterling, but I totally concur with that in the sense that I've always said this. And by the way, I run my business this way. I tell my students to this day, I don't do anything by myself anymore. It's not because I don't trust myself. It's not because I can't do it. It's because I really feel that other people's opinions and being able to have their input and to actually be able to talk about what it is that we're doing makes the difference. I know that I'm much better when I can bounce an idea off of, say, Sterling, for example. Hey, Sterling, what do you think about, it could be a freaking banjo part, and it might be a great banjo part, but if it's too much of it and I'm not aware that it's too much, at least I can talk to him and go, what do you think about this? And if he's going to be honest with me, he's going to, well, that sucks because it's too much. Nowadays it's like, I'm going to send you a stereo mix. You're going to put the vocals down and you'll send us the tracks, and then we'll weave it into the song that's going to be. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm old school, and I remember the days of having that camaraderie with the band, being a part, if you will, kind of the third wheel or the fifth wheel, whatever it might be, but actually participating in the in the process. And one of the things that I sincerely feel that gets lost when people start talking about making records and stuff like that, and absolutely nothing to take away from the bands that get to that point, but I think that there is a sense nowadays that gets lost in the sense that the art form of recording has been, we're literally on the verge of losing it. And I think Sterling can probably echo this. Sterling and I have recently kind of been joined back together in a instructor role, if you will. And one of the big things that I see with a lot of these guys coming through school nowadays is that they're not willing to pay the price to be able to get on the to get on the ride and to be able to ride. And the sad part about that is that they don't even know what they're missing because they've never gotten the opportunity to experience it. I think that's what digital recording has done to us all, is kind of isolated a lot of us, that would maybe typically be in the same room together. And, just speaking for myself, I miss it a lot. Just the camaraderie of being able to hang with the same people that you're recording, or to be able to break bread with, with the artist that you're going to be living with for the next 6-7 months or whatever. Point being is that, over the course of the last couple of years for me, pretty much everything that I've even remotely thought about touching has been remote. I mean, it's been very isolated.
Yeah, it definitely makes developing relationships with artists a lot different than before. Speaking of which, how did your relationship with Pantera begin, Sterling? Did it have a connection with Tim in any way?
Yeah, pretty much the same as Tim's. We were both there at the same studio at the same time when they came in to finish Far Beyond Driven in October of 93 at the Sound Lab, Dallas Sound Lab.
I think it's fair to say, Daniel, that Sterling and I both, we were big fans from the get-go before we had ever met the Abbott brothers. I had met, and I think I had mentioned this in an earlier discussion with you, that I had actually met their dad way before I ever met the Abbott brothers. So Sterling and I both kind of knew what was coming once we kind of got word, hey, the guys from Pantera are coming in, and we want to put you guys on there. I was honored to even be considered, worthy to be on a project that big.
Same. Awesome. Same. I knew it was going to be huge. I was a fan since high school when I lived way out in San Angelo, Texas, where I was raised. And so I had already been listening to them for years from their independent releases.
Oh, back in the glam days, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And it was, I didn't ever think in my wildest dreams I'd ever even meet them, much less work with them and live with them. So, it was a very, very exciting time for both of us to get to be part of that.
That's so cool.
And not to mention Terry Date, geez.
Yeah.
Master.
When it came down to the Far Beyond Driven record, and I think it's very fair to say this, and I may have even mentioned this before, but Terry was the glue that held all of us together.
Yeah, pretty much.
He was the mother hen, if you will.
Yeah.
We would have a pep talk by Terry. I don't know that it happened every day, but it would happen at least once a week. It's like, guys, whatever y'all do, you need to be aware that every move that you make could be it could be a huge detriment if you make a bad move somewhere. And so, you got to take care. Don't be idiots out there.
Yep.
Go have fun, but we need to be back tomorrow. So don't go out and do stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
No, for sure, man. So,
and I laugh at that because we always did stuff that we weren't supposed to be doing.
Totally. I was 23 years old.
That's the fun of life, man. You got to do.
Oh, jeez, are you
You know,
kidding?
you're told that
Practically a teenager still.
I don't know about you guys, but when I was that age and I was told not to go do something, that was the very first thing that I went
Immediately
and did.
went and did it.
100%. When you get told not to do something, even if you don't want to do it, you're doing it just because you're told not to do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you take that and multiply it by about 20. When you tell Dimebag that you can't go do something, it's like, hold my beer and watch this. I'm gonna go do this.
You're gonna go.
That is awesome.
Gonna go.
That's so funny.
So I have one more question about how the band recorded music. I know you touched on this a bit earlier, but in general, when the band would record, would they usually record off the floor together, or would they typically record in isolation?
When they built their own place, it was just a one open live room, and they would start that way. They would start by tracking live off the floor. That's how they got that feel, because they're all playing off of one another. So, and then Dime would go back and redo the guitars to match Vinny a little better and to match himself a little bit better. But most of that you're hearing is live takes, like a live foundation for sure. Rhythmically, Rex and Vinny most of the time were live.
And would Phil be part of that, or would he do the vocals?
No, I mean, he would be part of the writing sessions when they would write and start putting things together. But like Trendkill, he wasn't there for it all. He did all that from New Orleans. But Reinventing the Steel, he was there all the time.
So do you guys remember working on 5 Minutes Alone?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was that like?
Yeah. I was fucking.
You first, Sterling.
It all boils kind of together. It all blurs together. But no, I just absolutely loved that riff. The way that drum part was just to me was just, it dictated that whole song. You know, that dun dun ta, to just this hammering halftime beat over Dime's guitar riff. And I just remember hearing that at probably in the control room there at Dallas Sound Lab on 110 dB, you know, just as loud as these gigantic Westlake studio speakers would go. First of all, we had to build these big stands for them out of cinder blocks.
Really?
In the control room. Yes.
And we were absolutely breaking every acoustic design.
Totally.
Everything that was ever put out there is like, screw that.
Yes, because that's the one thing I learned from these guys that I will always treasure. One of the many things, but this one in particular of the whole philosophy of it's not the gear, it's the ear. And I learned how to make badass slamming music on cheap, broken, shitty gear, not name brand shit, nothing you would think would ever make an album. And that's how they lived their lives, because they started out with no money. They had to rig things together to make them work. And that's why we called Vinny Riggs, because he was the master of putting things together that may not go together, or making things work with scraps. And I just remember those speakers in that control room, we had that thing rocking and rolling, and it sounded amazing. And it was because they said, yeah, just do this. And we went and just did it, and it worked. I mean, that's what I remember about 5 Minutes Alone, was that just hearing it for the first time through those big ass speakers in the control room when we were all pretty lit, you know, having a good time, happy, drunk, and just that riff, you know, just knocking your hair back. And the other thing about 5 Minutes Alone was that I remember the day we were in the, Phil had just put vocals on it.
Okay.
And Terry had given them, you know, at the end of the day, that we would always make a cassette copy of whatever, and the guys would take it with them, listen to it on the way home on their little portable DAT machine, or their little cassettes or whatever in their cars. And, you know, the car was always the the thing, and still the saying to this day, the car is the If you can get it sounding good in the car, you're good. And he came back up the next day after the end of the night. That night we weren't quite to mixing yet, but we were finishing up all the recording. And he had taken that clip that you see in the home video 3 where he pulls up to that junior high and says, "Hey, y'all want to hear some new Pantera?" And the kids go crazy, and he's playing 5 Minutes Alone, and that's that mosh pit out front of the school, and the teachers are freaking out, and they're on their walkie-talkies and stuff, and they're not sure what to do. That was from 5 Minutes Alone, and the day after that song had all the parts on it, and it was complete. And him causing that mosh pit out front of that junior high that was right by his house in the neighborhood that he grew up in his whole life, it was like, that's the power of music. That's the power of a really, really good piece of music. It moves you. It makes crazy shit happen. It makes emotions come out that you didn't know you had in there. And so that was a pretty pivotal moment for me too, seeing those kids go crazy. And this, of course, this was a couple of years before that got put in the actual home video. He videotaped everything.
Yeah.
So,
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you specifically about Dime and 5 Minutes Alone is the guitar solo. Like, Dime has so many iconic guitar solos, but there's something about the sound of that solo in 5 Minutes Alone which just jumps out at me. Like, I don't even know what it is technically, but it's just the sound of the guitar. I don't really recall any other Pantera song where I hear that sound. Do you guys remember recording the guitars for that particular song?
Were you in the room when he did that solo, Tim?
I don't know.
It was a pretty simple solo, and at that point, Vinny was still recording all of Dime's guitar parts and solos. Terry would do it sometimes, but mostly it would be Vinny. I remember Dime's tech, Grady Champion, being there, and they were making sure that the tone was right, because the tone is unique on that song. And I can guarantee you it was, all right, dude, go out there and just fry this thing out. And what he meant by that was, he always talked about fry being on the top of his overall tone. And it's just that it's like a whole other realm of distortion, a whole other upper band of harmonic distortion on top of the distortion that he already has. And he called it fry. Go out there and put some extra fry on this. And so you could, and his pick was probably not his standard
nylon
green Tortex pick that he used. This is actually one of his picks that he used.
Really?
I keep it in my studio.
That's so cool.
It wasn't that standard one. It was probably something else, like a piece of metal, like a metal guitar pick. And it made, along with the fry or the distortion pedal or whatever he had in front, was like a very abrasive
little
thing.
edgier,
It's that
normal.
Yeah, he was the master of doing things like that to make things be different, to make things sound different. And that being said, and then we probably had I remember from the mix, we had some kind of just like reverb on it as well. So those two things culminating together that's what made that sound. And again, like I was playing, I have the multi-tracks for Far Beyond Driven, and I was playing them for a friend the other day, and they were amazed at how close to the finished product that the multi-tracks actually sound. It's like the mix wasn't a whole lot of extra added stuff. It was this, know, and we're like, yeah, that's how, when you were doing something and you were committing it to analog tape, it wasn't fix it in the mix. It was get it right to tape. Get it right first. Then we'll mix it, then we'll see what the mix brings out. And so, yeah, that was, I do remember there was probably something like that going on in the control room that night, because he approached each solo like its own little separate song. And
that's really cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. Would he kind of improv his solos, or would he write those out?
There was a couple of times he improv'd a solo, and we were like, "You're keeping that. It was that first take is golden thing. Every now and then there would be one like that. I remember one on Reinventing the Steel like that, and we were like, do not touch that. And then he would come back and just do like a little bit of like, he wouldn't change the part, he would just execute a note or two better, kind of thing. And we would be like, do not touch that. That is perfect. We're not, because there was one night I remember in particular where it was just like, hurry up, we're gonna be late for last call, what we call last call every night, hitting the bar. And he was just like, all right, let me put a solo on this real quick so we can listen to it on the way to the bar. And he whipped out this solo real quick, and it was like, that's staying on the album, that's not going anywhere. And we kept it, cool. Note for notes. That was on Reinventing Still. I don't remember which song. And then there was another song on Damage Plan called Moment of Truth. That is like a 2.5 minute long solo. That is all one take.
That's cool.
One take, one first shot. By the end of that solo, when he did that, I've got a whole other story about that particular night, but that is a one take solo. But most of the time he would have his solos worked out before he came into the studio, because he would have, we had the studio there at Dime's house, the main studio. And then he had his own little, what he called a 4-track studio upstairs in his house. And he would sit up there, and somewhere there's a closet full of 4-track cassettes of him working out solos.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I had to go through a bunch of stuff to find some multi-tracks, and up in his closet, there's literally a closet where there's boxes and boxes of cassettes, and they're written on it. It says fucking Hostile solo.
That's
solo
awesome.
1, fucking Hostile solo 2, Shedding Skin solo. All the stuff that he did, and he would sit up there and construct these and work on them, and then he would come in to record. Kind of away from the demo is going to end up being the album philosophy.
Gotcha.
But again, he treated these solos like they were a song inside the song. A lot of them were meticulously worked out, and he was looking for a certain thing. Some of them were only half worked out. And then he would sit there, me and him would sit there for hours and he'd go, all right, what if I hit this with this augmented riff? Okay, what if I try it diminished? What do you think of that? What if I pick this up legato? And he was actually very musically.
That's cool.
A lot of people don't know this, but he was actually, I wouldn't say musically educated, but he was musically smart in that regard.
And I was going to add to that and also say extremely organized amongst the chaos.
Yes.
Extremely organized amongst the chaos. So what might appear to be one person's total, you got to be freaking kidding me, we're going about it this way, totally would make sense when you broke it down. Exactly what Sterling was just saying right there. If you were to go back and take a look at some of the notes that were probably written, cassettes that were done, one of my pet things with Dime was always he had that camera going 24/7, and it literally, I'm sure there are things that were caught that would have never, that were captured that we would never think a second thought about. But it's there. It's totally there. There's absolutely, in my humble opinion, total genius amongst what might appear to be chaos going on.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And then some of it was chaos for the sake of chaos. All right, let's do this. Let's plug in 10-foot pedals just to see what sound they'll make, and that's what we're going to roll with. Never to ever be touched or reduplicated ever again, even if you tried. Stuff that I would never even thought of. Crazy recording scenarios, put a mic in the bathroom, and then we're going to compress that, and then we're going to run it back through a guitar speaker and then mic that. It's just crazy stuff, dude. And stuff that I even took notes on that I could never even duplicate today if I tried.
So Dime had a very producer savvy mindset. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. Him and Vinny both. Dimes came from more of a musical side, and Vinny's came from more of a technical side, and the two of those coming together was what helped that happen.
Which, by the way, Daniel, and I'm sure that you probably know this, but that is very, very rare to get technical and artist side where they can actually speak the same lingo and actually know what's going on. That made such a big, big difference to even those of us who were kind of, and I say this respectfully too, but those of us who were on the outside kind of looking in on their bubble for that period of time.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, I mean, you guys were talking a little bit earlier about the relationship between Dime and Vinny creatively. Like, was one of them more the leader than the other, or were they kind of equal in that sense?
Totally equal.
Yeah.
Totally equal. No one dominated each other. They worked as very much symbiotically.
Dimebag Darrell was killed on stage during a concert on December 8th of 2004. On the 10th anniversary of his death in 2014, Billboard magazine published an interview with Jerry Cantrell. Jerry and Dimebag were close friends and had known each other longer than Jerry even knew his own bandmates in Alice in Chains. In this interview, Jerry talks about Dimebag's death, his relationship with Dimebag, and more. Quote, I had already heard about Dimebag before I met him. I had heard stories about this kid who was so tight that he kept winning this contest in Texas every year for the best new guitar player. He won it so many times they kicked him out and made him a judge. Then, I graduated in '84 and was going to winter semester of college. And then I got the bright idea to put school off for a year and to try to put a band together with a bunch of buddies of mine. So we drove to Dallas in a van and got jobs. We jammed and went to clubs at night. One of the clubs we went to was a place called Cardi's in Houston. They had rock bands all the time. I saw Yngwie Malmsteen, Talus, all sorts of cool bands. Pantera was one of the bands I saw there. I remember talking to Dime after the show just about gear and about how much I enjoyed how he played. I thought he was an amazing guitarist, and he turned out to be an even better person. That started a long, long friendship. I remember talking to Rex Brown, Pantera's bassist, and Dimebag's older brother Vinnie Paul that night too. There are certain guys that you run into and you just know. You just know that guy's going somewhere. Lane Staley was one of those guys for me as well. With Dimebag, he wasn't any different in the center of the room with you or the center of an arena with thousands of people. He was a really genuine person. He was fun to be around. I had so many good times with him. And I had some bad times too, where it would be about picking each other up. I'd get to see him regularly out on the road. The arcs of our careers were fairly similar. Cowboys From Hell came out in 1990. Facelift came out in 1990. Vulgar Display was in 92. Dirt was in 92. End quote. Jerry was then asked the following question. How did you hear that he had been murdered? This was Jerry's response. Quote, I don't remember that exact moment, but I know I got on a plane immediately. All of us in Alice in Chains, Sean, Mike Inez, and me went straight to Dallas to be with Vinny and support him. We'd been through losing somebody, losing Lane 2 years earlier, so we had kind of been there. End quote. Vinnie Paul died from heart-related complications on June 22, 2018. A few days later, on June 27, 2018, Jerry Cantrell published an article for Rolling Stone magazine where he spoke about his relationship with Vinnie Paul and some of his history with Pantera. Quote, I met Vinny and Dime in '85, 33 years ago. That's a trip, man. Back then, I had quit college with a couple of buddies of mine and was doing asbestos abatement all around the Dallas and Houston area, where I lived for about a year. We got paid really well to do it because it's a crappy job, but what we would do is we'd work all day and then we'd go to clubs at night and check out bands. So actually, I've known Vinny and Dime longer than I've known the guys in my own band. I didn't meet Lane, Sean, and Mike until I was 21. I was 19 when I met Vinny. That's a long time, man. There were a lot of parallels between our two bands, and we always got along. We were brothers. I'd always see Vinny and Dime when I was off the road. My dad is from southeast Oklahoma, and I'd always visit him for Christmas. It's easier to fly into Dallas than it is into Oklahoma City. So, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, like clockwork, I'd roll in and hang out with Vinny and Dime in Dallas before I headed out to the ranch in Oklahoma. And then I hit him again on the way out.
Even after Vinny moved out to Vegas, he'd come back to Dallas and we get together. I go deer hunting with my dad, and we get a deer at Thanksgiving. By Christmas, we'd be into sausage, and so my dad would always have me drop off some deer sausage at Vinny's before hitting the airport. I always look forward to that time in Dallas, because with both of those guys, Dime and Vinny, it was always an adventure. You didn't know where it was going to end up when you got on their train, but you knew it was going to be fun and it was going to be interesting. And we had a lot of good times, man. I remember seeing the dent in the Stanley Cup that went into Vinny's pool. When the Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup, they brought it over to his house, and they were trying to launch it from the upper balcony into the water. But it didn't quite make it. I remember one time, Dime stole my car, and somebody detailed it with stickers and all sorts of flames, put cow horns on the hood. It was fun stuff, you know. Vinny and Dime, they both had such a great sense of humor. At the same time, Vinny was a guy who was extremely driven. A smart guy who could think on a lot of different levels, not just rocking out, but also about business. I think early on, he was probably the guy who handled a lot of that stuff. He was a smart cookie, and he was a true fan of rock and roll like myself. That's why we both wanted to do it. We wanted to do what our heroes did, and do it well, at the top level you could do it at. Vinny did that. Pantera were a revolutionary band for metal, and he completely influenced a whole generation of drummers. The way he played, the way he sounded. He had a kind of industrial sound to his drum. Nobody else was like him. And that guy's meter was just spot. He was a machine. He was a guy who achieved his dreams and worked his butt off to get there. And he always tried to have a good time doing it. And he and Dime were always really great with their fans. No matter the circumstance or how crappy they might be feeling, they wouldn't miss an opportunity to take a picture with somebody or have a shot with them. And you know, when Dime was killed, that was such a shock to all of us. But the fact that Vinny had to live with the vision of that, of seeing it happen, it still haunts me to this day. I can't even get my mind around that. But he had his own path. I heard Vinny had passed when Alice in Chains was in Copenhagen on our European tour. We always gave a shout out to Lane and Mike Starr when we played Nutshell, and at our next show, we dedicated it to Vinny. To me, personally, Vinny was one of the few people in my life, and there's only a handful of them, where it doesn't matter if I don't see you for a year, or 2 years, or 10 years. It's always consistent. Vinny was always consistent. He was someone I could rely on, a friendly pair of eyes. Every time you look in them, they look the same looking back at you. We've been moving so fast out here on the road that I don't think it's even really sunk in for me. Today, we're in Zagreb, Croatia. It kills me that I won't be there for Vinny's service, but my family is going to go and represent.